This is the Amateur Fanboy Podcast with your hosts, Chase Aguirre and Mike Hurtaza. What's up, guys? Back again. We are pushing through, sending as many podcasts to you as we can. We're going to continue to push this.
We're going to try to do at least 5-6 times a week. Maybe not Sundays, because Sundays are...
Who knows?
Sundays are for family.
Also, we might at some point run out of content or things to talk about.
We might.
Because...
I'm not going to let us, but...
Yeah, but right now we're just trying to push out some previews for NFL conferences or
I'm going to show up to Mike's
divisions.
I'm going to show up to Mike's house just randomly and be like, I'm doing a podcast. Go sit in the corner.
Chase right now is sitting down with an extra large can of Corona Extra.
Double can.
And an extra large can of Mike's Hard Lemonade Strawberry Pineapple.
I had to get one good beer and one little fruity beer because I need something that tastes good.
You're a little fruit?
Shut the fuck up.
It's okay, I like fruity drinks a little bit too.
Don't lie.
So with that, we are going to move into the NFC West and go preview each team there. But before we do that, there's some news that happened today on the NFL front.
Yep.
They are basically negotiating with the NFLPA, trying to extend our current collective bargaining contract, and they are pushing their. We knew this was going to happen, but they're pushing their 18-game season. This is the first time they've actually had conversations, at least to my knowledge, about this. But the one quirk is they are pushing with a 16-game player limit, which to me is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
So if I'm getting this right, essentially there would be 18 games, and you could play a maximum of 16 of those 18 games.
So each player is only allowed to play 16 of the 18 games.
That sounds incredibly stupid.
And again, this can all change. This could just be... They may be pushing multiple different ideas, and this is just the one that got released, or at least to the...
Or it's where they're starting
This is where the NFLPA might have wanted to see if, hey, look, this is dumb. Let's throw it out there and see what the people... We know they're going to freak out. So the thing is... So let's say you have Aaron Rodgers or Dak Prescott or one of these quarterbacks or any player. They are only able to play 16 games in this concept.
Wow.
So you would have to decide where during the season you would have to place the game that they wouldn't play, or the two games. Oh, there would be just a game they wouldn't play. It would be one game because of the bye week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense because, look, you would have to extend maybe your roster to like 75 players.
Yep. To
even be able to, you would have to have a backup kicker for that 1 week. You'd have to back up long snapper, backup punter.
Backup quarterback. Quarterback's huge. Depending on your backup quarterback, that could be an instant L for some.
But there's not even 20 good kickers in the league. Now you're gonna have to find 64 kickers, or at least I guess it wouldn't be that way because you would transition which week you would play. But certainly there's not that many good kickers in this league, and it's kind of doesn't make sense to me. There's no need to extend the season. Why change something that is already amazing and great? Why make it? Why drag it? The issue with basketball is too many games. The issue with baseball, there's too many games. Why does the NFL now? The NFL games, there's never going to be 60 games, 80 games, 120.
And not only that, even if the thing with the NFL is everyone's going to watch it every week. Mm-hmm. The NFL is just so damn big that I think they could do 20 games and they'd probably get it. But yes,
if I go and I go, who's the Cowboys' backup quarterback right now?
As far as I know, it's what's his name? Number 7, can't think of it. Cooper Rush.
Okay, Cooper Rush. So let's say you want to go see Dak Prescott play, and you buy tickets to a game, and then 2 hours before the game, you find out that Cooper Rush is starting to apply to this mandate. You're going to be pissed, right? You're not like, oh, we're probably going to lose now. And Cooper Rush, this unknown prospect, is going to have to play. Yeah. To me, that's a little dumb. Like I said, I think what they should do is if they are going to push an 18 games, they should just add another bye, have 2 byes, so they wouldn't actually play any more games. It would just, they would have an extra bye during the season. It would be the same amount of games they're playing, 16. 2 buys, one at the beginning of the season, one probably in the middle of the season. Every team would be better off that way. They will be healthier, and there's going to have more income. What I understand is the reason why they don't want to give an extra bye is they're going to use that extra game to make every team have to play international for one extra game. That's what I'm hearing, and that's why they're pushing
So
this.
every team will have to play a game in Mexico, London, or wherever?
Yes, every team, instead of having let's say London, instead of putting a team there, they can transition a different team playing there every single week, is what they are.
So instead of giving them a single team, you'll basically give them an NFL game.
Every team will have an international
essentially
game.
16 game season there with just different teams. That sounds like you might, at that point, you might as well just add a team and put them in London. Or move a team to London.
It makes sense. Look, if you're going to do it this way, it does make sense because now every team has that disadvantage. That's the good thing.
Yeah.
Every team does have disadvantage, and it's, to me it's kind of hard to say let's put a team in Mexico, let's have a team in London, and have these people from America having to move, these players having to move to those other cities, other countries.
Yes, they may, but some of okay, yes. The smaller players, like the guys that like don't make as much money, but like if you're thinking like the big guys, say for some reason the Packers moved, Aaron Rodgers could take his private plane to every game in fucking London if he wanted to and live in wherever he wants.
Yeah, but look,
but I get it. It's inconvenient.
You can't have a team traveling constantly into the United States and to London and be expected to play on a high time zone. A lot of different things that are going to complicate you.
Yeah.
But moving back to the 18 games, I just think it's a bad idea. It's going to happen at some point. I just hope it happens with 2 buys.
That's what I think. I agree. I think if you're going to do it, you do 18 games, you do 2 bye weeks, everything else is normal, you keep everything going the way it is, and you basically just set it up that way. Essentially like a regular NFL season, but you add a bye week for each team, and if you wanted to, you could maybe say, hey, look, this bye week... this 1 week, you gotta make sure you're playing these guys or you're playing that's fine. But to say that every player has to miss a game, I don't really agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's just too difficult. Maybe it'll help developmental because you'd have to add players, but I don't know. I think at the end of the day, when they add an 18 game, they should extend the rosters regardless and have no inactives.
Leave it to the NFL to make everything more complicated than it needs to be.
So moving on to our next segment where we are previewing a division in each division throughout the NFL.
And we'll analyze it, break it down, win totals, our fantasy players to watch, and all that. So we're going to start with we started yesterday with the AFC West.
And if you haven't checked that out, check it out. It's a good preview, and we also go through the fantasy implications and different things.
And we're going to do that today for the NFC West. So,
all right, we'll start now.
So, Rodney, if you're listening, we're about to go into the Rams. Well, not right this second, but we'll
start with the Cardinals.
We're going to start with the Cardinals. We'll work our way up to the Rams. Rams will be last because they were the best team in the division last year.
Yeah. So the Cardinals were 3-13 last year. They fired their head coach. They hired Cliff Kingsbury, who comes from Texas Tech.
Drafted Kyler Murray.
He drafted Kyler Murray. They drafted a ton of receivers. Their defense is still, pretty decent. Patrick Peterson is suspended, I believe, 4 games or 6.
That's right.
Something like that.
4 games. You're right. I totally forgot about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. My big concern is the offensive line. That's my big concern. They were the worst offensive line last year. They basically got Josh Rosen killed. Sam Bradford somehow got killed too, but he always gets killed. Doesn't matter what team it is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And David Johnson was basically nothing because not only the offensive line, but that scheme, the offensive coordinator, McCoy, who got fired, and then Leftwich got replaced. Still didn't improve that much.
I know all about it because I had him in fantasy last year.
Yeah.
It was dreadful.
Look, 2 things I think here. David Johnson should have a bigger impact than last year. They did not use him in the passing game as much, and they're definitely going to use that. I would expect him to...
With Kyler Murray? Oh, doubt.
To get, high amount of targets this year. That's where I would start. Basically, I would run my offense through David Johnson at this point. They are going to run a lot of scheme a lot of spread scheme, and have 4 or 5 receivers on the field at the same time.
Right.
So, what do I expect out of this offense? Probably, I'd probably say top 20, maybe top 25, just because it's going to be fun, exciting. Kyler Murray's going to I think he'll get above 500 yards rushing, 5-6 touchdowns. I think he should be the front runner for Rookie of the Year. What do you think?
Oh, I think 100%.
As long as he stays healthy.
Exactly. If Kyler Murray is on the field for 16 games and puts up the numbers we all expect him to put up and better that offense, and that team even wins 2 or 3 more games than they won last year, without a doubt he's Rookie of the Year. I think that's no question. I think there's really no chance, in my opinion, that he doesn't win. He would literally have to either get hurt
or
terrible. Just play absolutely terrible.
It's not. And look, he's gonna be the good thing with him.
But for me, it's play terrible from the aspect of what he is. If he plays how he plays, but they still suck, he's gonna win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
He will not, and I don't think he will be the reason they lose games. But if he is the reason for somehow they lose games, then we can have a conversation.
I'm going to expect this offense to be one of the quickest, fastest offenses that we've seen in a while since Chip Kelly. And that could be a positive and a negative. It hurts your defense a whole lot because they're on the field a ton. If you have quick 3 and outs and they have to jump back on, it's not going to be great to keep this team fresh. Chandler Jones is there, and he's one of the better players on the defensive line, and he played great last year.
Yeah.
Patrick Peterson suspended, so we'll see how this plays out. This defense is probably going to have, not as great of a year as they probably hoped, and especially with the current certain offense that they're running, they're going to be on the field a lot. So right now, the Cardinals are projected to have 5 wins in Vegas is what they're putting at 5 wins.
I'm going to take the over. I think they get 6. I think they can get 6 or 7. I know you're not big.
I'll take the over. I think they'll get 6.
How many wins did they have last year?
I think they had 3.
I think they easily can double that with just Kyler Murray being the quarterback. And then if you add in the fact that their defense maybe gets a little bit better and their defense maybe goes above maybe what it was last year, whether it does or doesn't, I just think it's vital to whether they're going to be able to be successful.
I'll go over just because I think they'll be about 6 wins. I don't think they'll be as terrible as last year.
They can't be. They can't be any worse than they
but
were
their
last
only
year.
wins last year were against the 49ers, were 2, and the Packers. That was the other one. So
they beat the Niners twice.
Yeah, but that was both against our backup quarterbacks.
I don't care. That shit's funny to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you want to start going into
49ers.
No, I thought we were going to talk about fantasy.
No, we'll talk about it after.
Oh, okay, afterwards? Okay.
Yeah. 49ers.
Okay.
So, this team is going to probably be the biggest question mark, and I'm a Niners fan, and I'm trying to be as objective, as possible here. I'm not trying to be biased. So, look,
what do you think? What, you think when the Cowboys come, I'm going to be biased?
I think I'm trying to be as fair as possible so that people understand as an outsider. Because, look, at the end of the day, if you know Chase, that he's going to have more bias towards the Cowboys than anything else. And I'm going to have bias towards the Niners.
My team is also really talented. But that's another thing for another day.
Okay. But the Niners, the big question mark is Jimmy Garoppolo. They'll go as far as he will. They have now a ton of talent on offense. They have Dante Pettis, Goodwin, Coleman. They have McKinnon. They have Breida. They have George Kittle. They have Deebo Samuel. They have Hurd. They have Trent Taylor. They have a ton of weapons on offense to be able to be a successful team. So, end of the day, this offense will go as far as Jimmy Garoppolo goes. If he's healthy, he's in the game, they potentially have a top 10 offense there. They have... Juszczyk. I didn't even say Juszczyk. He's the best fullback in the league. We're overpaying him to be here, but he is basically a huge weapon out of the backfield. He can line up anywhere on the field. I see him on the outside. I see him put on the slot in the backfield, and he can catch like no other. So, big question mark is Jimmy Garoppolo there. On defense, they have a ton of talent now. D Ford, they traded for. They traded a 2020 second-round pick to the Chiefs for him. They signed him to a mega deal. He better perform. He's expected to only basically rush the passer. He's not there to stop the run. He'll be subbed out. They drafted Nick Bosa, second overall. His big question mark is injury.
To me, the Niners' defense, as far as everything goes with it and how well they're going to perform, relies heavily on Nick Bosa. I think if Nick Bosa doesn't stay on the field, if Nick Bosa for some reason is hurt or he underperforms, that defense may not be as good as it possibly could be.
I will say yes and no, because end of the day they got to get to the quarterback, but it's not like they don't have talent on the defensive line.
It's not that they don't have talent, but Nick Bosa is going to be the motor that makes that
sure. Well, that and D Ford.
Because what other than D Ford and
Buckner,
Nick Bosa,
DeForest Buckner?
But he was on the team last year, right?
Yeah, and he had 12 sacks.
I mean,
he's the best. He's one of the better defensive tackles in the league.
I'm still standing by. I think Nick Bosa needs to perform for that defense.
Our issue was that we were able to get pressure on the inside, and we had no pressure on the outside. And now we have two new players. Add that with Solomon Thomas, who's going to be playing on the inside, and Eric Armstead as well. And then on top of that, we went out and gave big money to a player who has high potential, but he's coming off an ACL tour last year, and Quan Alexander from Tampa Bay Bucks. If he can stay healthy, he's a top 10 linebacker, but that's a big issue. Is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to be available at the beginning of the season? He's only 24 for a guy who's been in the league. This will be his, I believe, 5th season. So that's to me is crazy.
He was a one and done. Okay.
Oh yeah, he's been outstanding. He just needs to stay on the field. And then we got Fred Warner, who we drafted last season. He was an outstanding rookie. He needs to continue to be a good off-ball linebacker. He needs to just be able to tackle a little better. But the big question on that secondary, on that defense, is the secondary to me. You're going to be able to get pressure on the defensive line regardless on who's there. Big question mark: who's playing your free safety? Jimmy Ward's there, but he's always injured. So now you got Colbert and there's nothing else. That's where I think they needed to go out and spend money on Earl Thomas, but they didn't. And they still got Sherman, who's coming off. This will be his second year off of his torn Achilles that he had 2 years ago. He better have his burst back. He's getting paid like a top corner. And then we have Jason Verrett from the Chargers, who, dude is as fragile as anything.
The Niners are banking on a lot of guys that have injuries.
Yes, that's the big issue. They continue to sign and get these players who are coming off injuries and coming off injuries for other teams.
So I was listening to the Locked On Lakers podcast yesterday, and this will go into football. I promise. It's an analogy. And Anthony Irwin brought up when you gamble and you go to like you have on a wheel, like basically like a gambling wheel, or like when you max bet and you get a wheel.
Yeah, go for it.
And there's 5 million, or 200,000, and say like 600,000, and then there's $1 million. The Niners are basically hoping for that $1 million. They're hoping to hit that whatever. If for some reason things go wrong, they hit the 600,000.
It's a very boom bust.
Exactly, and that's what they're hoping for. They're hoping for the big win, and if not, then they take and they go what they go.
End of the day, those injuries on defense won't matter if Jimmy Garoppolo's on the field. That's where I'm at. He needs to be there. He needs to be the reason they win at this point.
Well, Jimmy Garoppolo needs to be great next
That's
year.
why I'm saying he's shown it, but he needs to be healthy. He had injuries with the Patriots when he started for those games when Tom Brady was suspended. Mm-hmm. He had 2 great games and then he got injured. Mm-hmm. He played great in 2017 for the 49ers without knowing the offense. And last year he was starting to play better because he didn't play good. He played decent in the first 2 games, and then going into that Chiefs game, he was starting to, that second half, he was starting to figure it out. And so it's crazy though, because we've yet to see him on a full 16 games. So this is a make or break year because they have an option to get out of his contract next season. So we'll see. He needs to earn it. At that point, really, the big question mark is Jimmy Garoppolo there. And they're at 8 wins total, and that's a tough one. I'd probably go even or over because I think they're about 8 or 9 wins. I think that's where they're at right now.
I'd agree with that.
I look, they could be a 10-team win if everything works their way, everyone's healthy. They did fire their conditioning, their trainer, everybody, and they spent a lot of money on.
I'd put their floor at 6 to 7 wins and their ceiling at.
And the crazy thing is, last year they were successful in the passing game and running game with a backup quarterback. So Kyle Shanahan is a great schemer, but they need to get everything together and win games.
We can also agree that there wasn't a lot of tape on the backup quarterback too, right?
Sure.
But still, he was successful.
He was successful. I'm not saying... Look, we only won 6 games last season. Yeah. It's not anything to... Is it 6 games? I think it might be 4. 4 games, sorry. We won 4 games last season. It's nothing to be excited about. This season, there's no hype compared to last year where there was a lot of hype because of Jimmy Garoppolo. Now it's a lot of... They're being undervalued where... Well, not necessarily because I think Vegas is right. I think Vegas is on it at 8 wins. 8 to 9 wins is where I have them right now. And moving on to the Seattle Seahawks. And this is probably the biggest question mark for this division. It is the Seahawks. Because they could either be good or they could be pretty bad. The only reason I see them being pretty good is because of Russell Wilson.
Right.
He will continue to play with a bad offensive line. He only has DK Metcalf at receiver. Who else does he have? Doug Baldwin retired.
I
mean...
Tyler Lockett, but
he'll probably be the number 1 receiver next year. But he's very small
going into the year. I think by the end of the year, DK Metcalf is number 1 receiver.
And I don't know if DK Metcalf is able to produce this year. It might take him a couple seasons to actually create space with his route running. He's a terrible route runner. That's his biggest issue. He's not very good at changing direction. That's his big issue. We'll see what that produces. But at the end of the day, he can still hit some bombs. He's just going to run straight lines, and Russell's just going to throw it to him. So we'll see with that. That defense is a huge question mark because Frank Clark's gone. He's with the Chiefs. He got traded. They did spend on some early picks on some defensive line players. And their secondary and this whole defense is very young.
Yeah.
Where do you have them at right now? What do you got?
Well, what's their over under total in Vegas?
I'll give it to you right now. Right now they are at 8.5. I'll take the under. That's a tough one because they're probably right there. I'll take the under.
I would probably barely take the over. I would say 9 wins is probably they're not their floor but their average. I would say the under would be smart if you're actually betting on it, but I'm not betting on it, so I'm gonna take the over just by a tad bit. I would say 9 wins, but they could easily fucking win 13 games. They could also easily lose.
They could also win 4.
Win 4 or 5 games. So they're a what do you call that? What's the word I'm looking for? They're very volatile. They're basically going to be really high or they're going to be really low. Like I don't think there's really an in between. That's why when I say the 9 wins, I think that's like literally like if they get an in between. But I think it's either the 12-13 or it's the 5 or 6, and who knows what's going to happen. And like I said, you just paid Russell Wilson all that money, so I mean, he's got to do something. He's got to perform.
He's got to carry this team.
Yeah.
What is your breakdown on this team? They have good running backs in Rashad Penny. They have Chris Carter. They're basically, to me, they're a running team with Russell Wilson. Probably doing what he does.
I think they're going to need to throw a lot more to be successful this year. I don't think that they're going to be able to run that offensive line. If anything, it got worse from last year.
Their offensive line wasn't bad.
But how many?
They were very good at running the ball.
My thing is, how many more years can that continue? At some point, dude, like they're gonna know you're gonna run the ball.
Well, the issue is,
and they're gonna pound the line. They're gonna make Russell Wilson beat you.
Russell Wilson has been extremely healthy? What happens if he does get an injury?
And that's the other thing too. He scrambles for his life so often. I just don't know how much longer he can do that.
I think the Seahawks would probably be one of the worst teams in the league if Russell got injured.
I agree. And I think we talked about it, and you said when that you would pay Russell Wilson this money if you're the Seahawks. I'm like, you're going to pay a guy all that money and give him literally no offensive line? Like, you're basically asking for that to go in the trash. They always go into the...
Look, they got Brown from the Texans, I believe, 2 seasons ago. He's been great. The interior offensive line's been issues there, but they're able to run the ball. that's where I think they'll continue to just be a running offense who can pass successfully. So, yeah, I probably have them. At some point, I think this team breaks down. I don't know if Russell can continue to carry them. I probably have them about 6 or 7 wins at this point. I'm hoping that the 49ers are able to take that second step and become the second team in this league, because we're about to go into the Rams, and this team is very talented. This is a very talented team with a very young coach who's very.
Dad, if you're still listening, you're gonna want to hear this.
he reminds me. He's basically a genius outside of that, scheme wise. We'll see what he does. Looking at, he's got to pretty much. The league has a breakdown how to stop the Rams offense with what the Patriots did. He's just got to continue to, update himself and change that, because there's a way of stopping Jared Goff now. So
I mean, the Cowboys thought they had a way to stop Jared Goff. That didn't work out too well.
I mean, the Patriots figured it out, though.
I mean, the Patriots figured it out, but the Patriots figure everyone out. That's not exactly a surprise. Every other team other than the Patriots could not figure them out.
But the thing is, once it's on film, other teams take notice, and they're going to run a lot of the things that the Patriots did. I'm expecting the Rams to continue to be the leader of this division for now. Everything's going to hold up on Jared Goff, regardless. Like every quarterback in this division, they're going to win or lose based off of Jared Goff.
Every team in the NFL is going to win or lose based on their quarterback. I don't think there's any team that if they lose their starting quarterback, it's going to be very successful.
This year is huge because you don't know what you have in Todd Gurley. He has arthritis in the knee, and that's not something that can go away.
That's honestly probably the Rams' biggest question mark is Todd Gurley.
Yes, they did draft a running back fairly early who's probably going to get carries. The thing with Todd Gurley is you're probably going to get a good game, and then he'll have 2-3 bad games or not play a game.
Didn't they bring
throughout the season?
Did they bring C.J.
No,
Anderson
he
back?
signed with the Lions, if I remember.
Okay. I was I wasn't sure.
No, they drafted a running back.
No, I know they drafted a guy. I just wasn't sure if they brought C.J. Anderson back or not.
They have good receivers, or good to great receivers. Woods, I think he's very underrated.
They got Pharaoh Cooper. They got Robert Woods. They got
they have Cooper. Yeah, they have Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp. Well, Pharaoh Cooper is also on that. He's a return guy, but he's also Pharaoh Cooper. They got Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Brandon.
Oh, they have Cooper Kupp's little brher too. They just signed him. He's an undrafted free agent.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
And then they also got Higbee. You got Garrett Everett. You got their other. They got 3 tight ends.
What's gonna basically their interior offensive line is where this team, because the past 2 years they have had no injuries in this offensive line. That is never happens. Now, they did lose, I believe, their center retired, and they lost their guard to free agency.
Whitworth?
No, Whitworth's their left tackle.
Okay. I was going to say, I think he's still back.
No, yeah, their left
center,
tackle.
Who's their center?
Who
was their center? I can't even think of his name off the top of my head.
Give us
a second. We're going to figure this out.
John Sullivan. He's
John
gone.
Sullivan. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
I did not know he retired. All right.
They also have, I believe, their guard left in free agency. So
yeah, they did lose a guard. I can't remember who, but they did lose one of their guards.
So this offensive line is basically has been one of the better ones in the NFL, especially since they have had no injuries.
I do think it'll take a step back, but I still believe that they'll be up there.
I think they'll be the number 1 team going into the playoffs. Out of the West.
Yeah,
NFC West.
I think they'll have a top 10 offensive line. I think they'll still have a top 5, top 6 offense. I think the Rams' biggest issue will be getting that same production out of that defense. I think that's going to be huge. And if the Rams are able to continue, like Talib, and they lost Joyner to the Raiders.
He wasn't that much of a loss, though.
And
he didn't play very well.
But they did draft a couple guys on defense in the draft. So
they have Whittle.
Yeah, they got Whittle. That's right.
And they still have Aaron Donald's still the best defensive player in the league.
They're going to be solid. They're going to be solid. I fully believe they'll be solid.
They just need to start producing pressure on the outside as well, instead of just in the middle. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how this team, they're going to have a lot of big contracts coming up. I think they have Jared Goff and a lot of players on defense, a lot of young players. So we'll see how this team is able to kind of, you got to let somebody go, and you got to draft well to continue to win. And
I think they drafted, if I'm not mistaken, they drafted a couple corners and I think a linebacker in the draft.
But they did not have a first.
But what I'm saying is they drafted guys that they could potentially build for when they might need to pay those guys and figure out whether they should or not. So, I mean, they kind of did what the Cowboys did. They drafted guys for depth that they know are going to be at positions of either they're going to have to pay or positions of need. And I think that's what the Rams do well. So we'll see how it works out.
We'll see how it works out. Sean McVay deserves a contract extension.
Oh, if he doesn't get one after this season, he'll get one.
Yeah, he'll get one. I'm pretty
soon.
sure they're working on it.
Yeah, he might get one during the season.
The Rams win total, or at least for Vegas currently, is 10.5. I would go even on that.
I'm gonna take the under. I think 10 wins is probably where they'll be at their floor. If they perform well and everything goes well, they could win 11, 12 games. But I think 10 wins, and that wins that division this year.
I will say this division is going to be a very hard division to come out of. 3 teams to me are competing, or even 4. I think if Kyler Murray can surprise a lot and show out, this team could potentially be a playoff team. Going from
I think only one team. I think only one team comes out of that division as a playoff team.
Oh, I think 2 come out of here.
I do not think 2 come out of there.
I think 2.
I think
this team's division is too hard.
I think 2 come out of the NFC East, and I think 2 come out of the NFC, the Packers division. I think the Bears and the Packers, and I think the Cowboys and the Eagles. I do not see the Seahawks, Niners, or Cardinals if the Rams are the better team coming out.
To me, the 49ers, if they're healthy, they're going to be around. If they're healthy, which is not going to happen, or potentially could, it just depends on who gets hurt.
It all depends.
They could be 10 wins. Who knows? But again, right now, if I was going to put my money, and this is a Niners fan, I'd put it on the Rams because they're just too talented to not make the playoffs at this point. And I'm going to assume the Seahawks take a step down and probably are the third.
And that's what I'm
team here.
saying. Unless the Niners come up pretty heavy, that whole division is going to be right around the 7 to 9 wins, other than the Rams. And I don't know.
I could see it where the Rams are at 12 and the Niners or the Seahawks are at 10. I can see that happening.
I just don't know that the Seahawks can get 10
because the
wins
Seahawks
this year.
We said that last year and they did it.
Yeah, but
they always end up figuring it out.
How many more years can they figure it out?
Well, as long as they have Russell Wilson, I think they can.
I think at some point their luck's going to run out and that offensive line is going to break Russell Wilson.
I can see it where this year they're like at 7 and 9.
Yeah.
So, moving to fantasy to the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, David Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, but more of a flex option. You probably want to transition him into the rotate.
The guy I look for on the Cardinals is Andy Isabella. He's going to be a good slot. He'll be good in PPRs.
Yes, but they have like 3 or 4 slot guys. They basically Christian Kirk is a slot guy.
I think Christian Kirk. I think is going to be the more downfield threat. He's tall. He's lanky.
He's been playing as the slot. Larry Fitzgerald's been playing at the slot.
Am I going to draft Andy Isabella hella high? No, I'm not. But if there's
I wouldn't draft him. I would take him as a flyer, during waivers.
No,
after
if I have a couple waiver spots left over, I might take him as one of my last picks. I think he's going to be that guy that surprises a whole hell of a lot of people. There were a lot of people that were really high on him going into the draft and where his value was. I would be shocked if he doesn't put up 50, 60 catches this year for like 500-600 yards and a few touchdowns.
I would assume that he probably has between 40 and 50 for 500 yards. I would probably say that. But the thing is,
that's good value.
I'm not sure if he's able to produce enough points for me to be able to even put him on my roster.
I would put him on my roster as one of my last picks. I would.
Yeah, taking a flyer is not the worst thing at the end of the world. Now,
but other than
David
that,
Johnson,
you got David Johnson,
first round running
Kyler
back.
Murray will go at some point. He'll probably be a backup quarterback for a lot of people.
Larry
Fitzgerald, and maybe Ricky Seals-Jones or Max Williams could be a tight end, for a league that needs tight ends where you have backup tight ends. Maybe you could take a flyer on one of those guys, but other than that,
he's more of a trend.
No,
you would switch him out.
Yeah. Other than that, I think David Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Andy Isabella, and Kyler Murray are my for sure guys that I would
right now.
Take
David Johnson is around 6, the 6th ranked overall player.
I think he definitely is going to have a bigger year than he did last year. Now, it all depends on what Kyler Murray does and how that offensive line produces and how much they protect him. but I think he could easily rush for 15, 16
Would you
yards
take
this year.
him over Le'Veon Bell,
I probably would right now.
Joe Mixon, or James Conner?
I would take him over James Conner, not over Mixon.
How about Nick Chubb?
Not over Nick Chubb.
Not over Nick Chubb? Okay. How about Melvin Gordon?
Depending on if he gets traded or not. If he's on the Chargers, I'll take him over David Johnson. But if he gets traded somewhere, I might.
He's not going to get traded. I don't think so.
I don't, dude.
It doesn't happen in the NFL.
Just remember who said it. Something in my being tells me they're going to end up trading him.
It could happen because they're the Chargers and they run the organization pretty terribly.
I mean, he's telling them basically what? How many weeks are we till training camp? Like 3 weeks till training camp?
The training camp starts this week.
Or this week,
for the Cardinals, they start in 4 days.
But that's what I'm saying. Not the Cardinals, the Chargers.
Oh, the Chargers, yeah.
It's like this came out so quick. They're basically gonna have to pay him before training camp. I think it's less likely they pay him and more likely.
No, it's more of he. To me, I'm more worried about when he shows up to training camp.
I 100% believe they will trade him before they let him hold out.
If Melvin Gordon, let's say, goes to the Texans, that's a great place.
No, that is. But you cannot. If I'm the Chargers, you cannot have an issue with the running back holding out going into the season. When you have that much potential this year, you need to know who your running back is next year. If that means you trade Gordon and put Eckler or whoever the hell else it is at running back, you have to do it. You cannot let your running back that's starting for you next year be a question mark going into the league.
So Kyler Murray is the 91st overall player. He is 12th in his position right now.
Like I said, he's gonna go.
That's all. That's about.
I'll put it this way:
in a 12-team league, that's a starter.
In my dad's league, where we're at 10 teams now, but we're at half point PPR, I could eat, and we have bonuses for like 300-400 yards passing. I could easily see him being drafted in like the 5th, 6th, 7th round by a team that maybe is going to take a chance on him as being that guy.
That is what. That's about 7th or 8th. That's the 7th or 8th round right there in a 12-team league.
And that's what I'm saying. That's it. In a 10-team league, I think he could go anywhere from 6 to 8. I would not be surprised if someone takes a chance. And
if we hear hype coming in camp, he'll probably be a riser if he plays great during preseason.
I'll tell you right now, I'm trying to get him as my backup quarterback.
It's tough though because he's going. To me,
if I can draft a quarterback early in the first 2 rounds,
that's pretty early though, because
I'm not sure that I will draft a quarterback early, but if I draft a quarterback in say the 4th round and he's still there in the 8th, 9th round, I might take him.
The big hype with Kyler Murray in fantasy is his running yards and his rushing touchdowns because you get more points.
And like I said, in the league I'm in, we get over 100 yards. So,
but it does. Passing is not where I'm drafting him. I'm drafting him because of his rushing yards. He can become a top 5 fantasy prospect.
Do you get plus 5 points for 100 yards in your league?
No,
we do in our league. That's what I'm saying.
Normal leagues don't have that though.
But that's what I'm saying. I said in my dad's league. Yeah. That's where I'm going to draft him possibly early. In my rookies league, I'm not probably going to touch him.
Why wouldn't you? He
not that I wouldn't touch him, but I would wait a little bit later.
He gets more points rushing than you do passing touchdowns.
Yeah.
So he's a top 5 quarterback if everything's running.
No, if everything's going well, yeah. But I'm saying, based off before we even see him on the field,
Lamar Jackson was a top 7 quarterback when he was playing.
But we will have our draft. Or most drafts will be after a few weeks of preseason, so you'll be able to kind of see what's going on with that.
Sure.
So I guess we'll have to wait and see how things play out.
Anyone else from that team, or we're good?
Like I said, Larry Fitzgerald, Andy Isabella, David Johnson, and Kyler Murray. Those are my 4.
Moving to the 49ers. To me, there's a lot of players here that I'm targeting, and I normally don't like to target. Jimmy Garoppolo is being undervalued right now, and I think he has potential to be a top 10 quarterback drafted at like 15th.
I think there's 4 to 5 guys on the Niners roster that I would draft.
Dante Pettis is a person I am targeting. He is a huge, huge target for me. I think George Kittle is going to be overdrafted.
The 3 you just listed are the 3 that I would go with, and then I would probably take one of the Niners running backs. Depending on who it is.
That's where I would not draft them. I don't know who. Look, Coleman looks to be the starter at the beginning of the season, but at some point, Coleman and Breida are going to take carries away from him. I expect Coleman to probably lose or at least transition to the second the second string within week 4, and McKinnon and Breida to take over a lot of reps.
Well, if that's the case, then there's probably four guys.
It's a committee. I would not touch anybody in that backfield.
Pettis, Kittle, Garoppolo, and your kicker.
Who, if he plays?
Yeah,
Gold's one of the better tight.
He's one of the better kickers. But I don't know about any of the other receivers.
Who would you touch out of the backfield of the Niners if you had to pick one?
Probably Tevin Coleman. Because in our league, my dad's league, it's half point PPR, and
that's why I would go McKinnon though.
If he's healthy,
That's a big thing. But
before last year, he tore his Achilles or tore his ACL or whatever he tore before training camp even really got started. So if he's going into the fucking start of preseason healthy, then I would probably take him.
You probably won't see him play during the preseason. I would see. This is why I wouldn't touch any of their running backs. McKinnon's gonna be the one who's gonna be on the field on third down, and
I think Coleman has a lot of potential.
But McKinnon, they paid McKinnon top 5 running back money.
But if Coleman outperforms him, what does that matter?
The thing is that Kyle Shanahan's going to put all 3 running backs on the field.
And I'm not saying he's not, but I think Coleman will get them.
I think that Coleman will get first down, and I think McKinnon will get third down. I think also, look, I don't even know who's going to be the goal line back. It could be Breida. Breida was amazing last year. And this is where I would avoid, if you can avoid. You
asked me who I would take. I said I would take Tevin Coleman.
Let me see where they're at right now in on the rankings. But anyone else do you like on this team? So Coleman is at 60. I think that's way too early. I would probably take Rashad Penny over him. I would take Tariq Cohen's still going to get third down.
But is he the highest, Niner
I think so.
Running back going? That's what I'm saying.
That's because he's going to be the starter at the beginning of the year.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to have to rely on that. Like, if you have to base off waivers later, you do it.
But if you're drafting him in, let's say, the 5th or 6th round, and would you take him over Lamar Miller?
I'm not saying I would take him in the 5th, 6th round. I'm saying if I were drafting a Niners running back and I had a chance to get either of them, that's what I would take.
But if you're able to get Coleman in the 6th, and let's say you get McKinnon in the 11th, I think McKinnon has the better value.
That's what I'm saying. It all depends on how your draft goes.
Well, that's what I'm telling you right now. So who would you take over Coleman? Would you take Rashad Penny, James White?
I would take Coleman over James White for sure. I don't know about Penny, but I would take him over James White.
I would take Rashad Penny over Coleman. But Tariq Cohen, I would probably take over Coleman. How about Kenyon Drake? That's a tough one for me.
I would definitely take Tevin Coleman over Kenyon Drake.
Because Drake is probably going to be the starter.
I had Kenyon Drake a lot last year, and he let me down.
Well, he also had one of the worst head coaches.
And it's only going to be worse this year.
Yeah, but his head coach likes to transition running backs in and out. He had Frank Gore also behind him. He doesn't have Frank Gore.
I'm not drafting any Miami Dolphins on my team this year.
How about one last one? LaShawn McCoy or Coleman? Frank Gore is there though. I'd take McCoy, but that's more of a.
I would only take McCoy just because I know that he's going to get a lot of rushes and he's going to get a lot of opportunities. But at the end of the day, if Coleman ends up, bouncing.
I found Jerry McKinnon. He's at 112. I would definitely take McKinnon over Coleman at that point. I think McKinnon is probably, when he comes back from the bye week 4, he's your starter.
He's also coming off that injury. I mean, I know you say it's whatever, but Coleman is 100% healthy, and I know what I'm going to get from him. I'd be scared to take McKinnon
if I'm looking at injury history. And where do you see George Kittle right now at drafting?
I think he's probably the number 3 tight end, probably right now.
He's number 2 right now.
Who's ahead of him?
Kelsey. Kelsey's number 1.
Who's number 3?
It's Ertz. Ertz is right behind. I would take Kittle.
I would take Ertz before I took Kittle.
Well, Kittle's the number 1 option on the 49ers offense.
I would still take Ertz. He gets so many damn touchdowns and so many damn receptions. He's a PPR monster.
True. George Kittle was the number 1 tight end last year, though.
He had a lot of big play touchdowns. Sure. That's a lot of the reason why. I'm not saying he's bad. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he sucks. I'm just saying if you're talking PPR and you're talking receptions, I would probably take Ertz before I took Kittle.
I personally would take Kittle, but I think
Of course you would.
I think I would probably. I wouldn't take any of these guys this early. He's going at 36.
Take a sip.
He's going at 36, and Ertz is at 37.
Take a goddamn sip.
I'm taking his.
It tastes like a pet. It tastes like a strawberry pet. It tastes amazing.
It's good.
Anyways,
I'm
not shitting on Kittle.
No,
I'm really not.
You're going to be happy with any of these three.
Well, either of those three, if you get one of them, you're happy.
And look at Kelsey though; he's going at 18.
Now I'm curious, and we're not going to the NFC East yet, but I'm curious where Jason Witten is.
Oh, he's not draftable. I would not even touch him.
I would like to have Jason Witten. I would like to have Jason. If I got tight end hella late, I would not mind having him.
I'll look, but let's move on.
He was Dak Prescott's favorite target last year.
If you want to talk about the Seahawks, well, I'd look for Jason Witten.
Yeah, I can talk about Seahawks.
Go for
their
it.
fantasy.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, obviously, probably a top 5, top 6 quarterback. Rashad Penny. I see. You talked about how the Niners and the running backs is. I think the Seahawks running backs scare me more than the Niners running backs do because they have no offensive line and you just don't know who's going to be the guy. Chris Carson, Rashad Penny. I think they have one other guy there that I'm missing.
He's not even here. He's not even in the top 22.
That's absolutely. Man, that's crazy to me. But I mean,
he's not drafted. He's not draftable. That's why.
If you don't think Jason Witten, after what he did last year, he was in the league, was draftable.
But as crazy. A fantasy, I'm talking about fantasy. This is
we're talking fantasy. Are you kidding me? Jason Witten had like 6 to 7 catches a game for like 56 yards and a touchdown on a normal occasion. In a PPR league, he is definitely draftable. Maybe not this year with how many weapons the Cowboys have, but the last year he started, he was definitely good. But for where you could get him, definitely good.
I'm looking
and maybe I'm crazy. That's
Hold on.
Anyways, so we're still going Seahawks. Tyler Lockett would probably be the number 1 receiver. Metcalf is a sleeper in my opinion. And then we'll see how their tight end goes. Is Jimmy Graham still there?
No, he's at the Packers.
So who's their tight end?
They have a mixture of a few. They had a rookie last year who was playing great and then he got injured. I forgot his name.
I think I know who you're talking about. No, look him up, but I think I know who you're talking about. But I think for sure Rashad Penny. I think for sure.
They have Luke. No, they don't have Luke. It's not who I'm talking about.
It's not Luke Wilson. That's the guy I was thinking of. That's not it. But
I'll tell you right now.
Russell Wilson, one of the running backs, and then Tyler Lockett and maybe Metcalf. I think those are where. And then their defense is probably draftable. I wouldn't say.
It was Will Dissly, but they have Ed Dixon and Nick Van.
Oh, Will Dissly.
It was Will Dissly.
It was Dissly.
Yeah.
But their defense will be draftable. I'd probably say top 15
Where's
defense.
DK Metcalf in this? Is he draftable?
I think he's draftable. Kind of where I had it, Andy Isabella. You take him in like the last few rounds. I wouldn't take him very high. I know a lot of people probably will, but I wouldn't.
I would take DK Metcalf over Andy Isabella.
I don't know that it's much of a difference.
I think he has opportunity.
I really don't. 100%.
I think he has opportunity to be the number 1 receiver there.
He has opportunity.
They have no choice.
But are you going to take him in the 7th, 8th round?
He is going. He is the 38th receiver off the board.
And who the hell is behind him?
I'm looking to see where your boy is at.
He's behind Cortland Sutton. That's insane.
That's because he's DK Metcalf. Is
behind Larry Fitzgerald. That's insane. Corey Davis. That's insane. D.D. Westbrook. That's insane. No,
I wouldn't take him at that point.
That's way overdraft. I see like 4 or 5. Tyrell Williams. That low, dude.
Well,
there's Marquise Brown. Jesus, yeah. Marquise Goodwin even. Forgot
Andy
about
Isabella
him.
is the 67th receiver.
I forgot about Goodwin for your Niners. He's
ahead of Randall Cobb, though.
Yeah, Randall Cobb should be higher.
Well, he's the number 3 receiver there.
I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about PPR leagues. Randall Cobb is going to be a slot monster. He is replacing Cole Beasley in the slot. He is going to be a monster. I'm not trying to overrate the Cowboys too damn much, but
we're going back to the Seahawks because we'll talk about.
I'm
the
sorry,
Cowboys.
but there's a lot of good options on the Cowboys offense for fantasy wise. But
I mean, go for it.
We'll talk about it later. Rashad Penny, Russell Wilson,
Tyler Lockett's probably the receiver that you're probably looking to get.
Yeah, I would say so too. Probably drafted in the first 5 rounds or so.
Yeah, and I'm okay taking either Chris Carson or Rashad Penny, but if you get Chris Carson, you probably should get Rashad Penny.
In my league, you gotta get
both.
Yes,
you gotta get the handcuff because at any point, Chris Carson was battling
that's why
injuries.
At that point I would probably rather have other running backs because I do not want to get handcuffed with.
But the good thing is,
Seahawks running backs.
I think they perform as a top 15 back.
They should.
whoever starts is going to perform as a top 15 back there.
They should.
So lastly, we're going off the Rams, and they have a ton of options.
Yeah, I think they're 7 deep as far as fantasy options. You got Gurley, his other running back counterpart. You got Goff. You got Woods. You got Cooper Kupp. You got either tight end you want to go.
If we want to start at,
you got Cooks.
Yeah.
Josh Reynolds even is a good option. Josh Reynolds was coming off a great second half that he had last year. I think he could be a low-key option.
Okay, Darrell Henderson, to me, is the player you're probably going to want to get late in the draft because to me, if he ends up starting, he's going to have a huge game. He's not. I'm not saying Todd Gurley-esque, but he's going to be very important to that
your
offense.
Guys are Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, and
if
possibly
you had
Josh
to pick
Reynolds.
Out of all the receivers, Brandon Cook, Woods, or Kupp, who would you go? Because to me, I'm going after Cooper Kupp. When he was healthy last year,
100%
he was a top 5 receiver.
Cooper Kupp, Woods,
in fantasy.
Cooper Kupp, Woods, and Cooks in that order.
Mm-hmm. So the player I'm avoiding is Gurley unless he's there in like the 5th round. I'm not touching him.
I'm gonna take him in the first. I'm gonna take him in the 3rd or 4th round if he's still there.
I might take him in the 3rd or 4th, but I think he's just
if
too much of a gamble.
If I have a Zeke or a Le'Veon Bell and I can get Gurley to go with it, I'm taking that chance.
Yeah, you throw him at the flex.
100% percent. In worst case, he doesn't perform and he becomes a flex back. But once you get one good starting running back, you can definitely.
The problem is you just never know.
As your number 1, no 2 for sure.
You'll never know what he's gonna come out and be. You don't know what he's gonna be week in and week out. That's the problem. This defense is a draftable defense.
Oh yeah, top five easy.
So
I think I listed on the other day's podcast. I had my top 5 defenses in no order, and I had the Rams, the Jaguars, the Cowboys, the Bears, and one other team.
I'll have top 10 because there's just too much trend. Year to year defenses kind of go up and down. I'll have top 10. I don't really like putting top 5 defenses at this point. There's too much variables that change. But
there's a lot of variables, but if you don't think the Rams are going to be a top 5 defense, I don't know what to tell you.
Aaron Donald could go down. That could completely change.
There's a lot of things.
That's what I'm saying. I'll put top 10.
There's a lot of things that can change, but I don't think Aaron Donald. I think we can all agree Aaron Donald's going to be Aaron Donald.
The big issue last year was their secondary. Marcus Peters did not play good. He played better in the playoffs, so we'll see how he continues this season. I believe this is where his contract is going to be up here, so we'll see how that works out. They do have Dante Fowler. They re-signed him for a season, and Clay Matthews with Eric Whittle. So it's going to be fun to see how this defense kind of plays out. So with that, do you have anything else you want to say?
I would just caution people to take quarterbacks too high.
Of course. I
think that's one thing that gets lost in the sauce when it comes to... Sorry to use that reference.
He's a little drunk.
I'm not drunk.
I'm just kidding.
I'm barely buzzed. But that's a little thing that gets lost in this whole thing is quarterbacks. Like we talked about Mahomes the other day. We talked about Goff today. We talked about Wilson. You can get guys like Wilson early if you want, but then there's going to be guys like Dak Prescott, Ben Roethlisberger, Joe Flacco.
We'll go over strategies for these. We'll continue value. My strategy is always trying to get high upside later in the draft. I drafted Patrick Mahomes and Andrew Luck last season. Both of them were very undervalued. They're very big question marks. I like to draft 2 question marks extremely late.
Yeah.
I think I got Andrew Luck in like the 10th round, and I got Patrick Mahomes almost the last pick of the draft.
Depending on where people draft.
And I had the number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks on my team.
But what I'm saying is, depending on where people draft them, Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Garoppolo are probably going to be 2 of your top targets
this year. I think
Aaron
Aaron Rodgers will
He'll probably still get drafted really high because he's Aaron Rodgers.
But he has high upside.
I just do not know that I would take him in the first 2 to 3 rounds. After that injury.
No, I always don't draft. I draft quarterbacks.
Somebody will.
I draft quarterbacks in the 10th round. Look, end of the day, I'm that type of person. I'd like to play week to week. If I have an opportunity to go get a player who has a good matchup, I would rather play that. Unless, of course, you have Patrick Mahomes, and week to week you're going to get high amount of points.
Oh, 100%.
And I put that with defenses as well as kickers. That's why any league that kind of locks you in with players, kind of to me, I wouldn't play. It's just too tough.
Like I said, there's 3 positions that I either try to, if I can avoid it entirely, I avoid until like way later, or I draft later based off the fact that their value will be higher later, and that's quarterback, tight end, and kicker.
Well, no, I would play even defense. The defense and kickers, the last picks I have.
And defense too, but defense is a given. Defense, even in the best leagues I've seen, only 2 defenses go before the ninth.
And of course,
round.
the reason why, if you have an opportunity to not even draft a defense, I would suggest it. If your league doesn't lock you into having a certain amount of players, don't draft a defense, because if you look at the matchup, who's playing week 1? That's what you should be worried about. Week 1, week 2, you can transition to a different defense.
That's the only thing that sucks about my dad's league, is that we have the every 4 weeks waiver wire bullshit, or waiver wire whatever bullshit, and then my rookies league we have we can literally change every week, so you can draft defense week to week in that league, but you can't in the other league, so it makes it tougher to draft.
To me, it's smarter to be able to, if you're able to.
Dad, I beg you, please go to the waiver wire.
If you're listening this far,
please give up the freaking supplemental draft. We need the waiver wire. I am sick of having to literally get rid of a defense in week 8 for no reason whatsoever.
So with that, I just want who is your underrated or your value pick later in the draft?
Based off this division?
This whole division.
Probably DK Metcalf or Andy Isabella.
To me, I'm going to go with Darrell Henderson and Jimmy Garoppolo.
I think Garoppolo will go higher than a lot of people think.
He's going really late right now.
I think he'll go anywhere from the 6th to 8th round.
Oh,
he's
going about 12th right now. The 12th round.
You know what? When my draft
things can always change.
My drafts happen, even regardless of what happens, when my draft happens, I'm gonna let you know where Garoppolo goes in.
ADP will tell me where he's going, and it continues to update.
I'm curious what the ADP on a few players were last year, because I know there was players taken way higher than they should have been last year, and some that were taken way lower than they should have been.
Well, if you look at Patrick Mahomes' ADP was like 130th or 100th, so it's really late.
Someone took him in like the 8th or 9th round in my league last year.
Well, I got them both really late.
That's what I'm saying.
I had them in
really
2
all
leagues.
depends on the league.
The funny thing is,
some people are higher on him than others.
I was targeting him on 2 leagues late, and I got him in both. So with that, we'll end the pod. We'll talk to you later, and we'll continue. We'll go into. We'll do we'll do the East. The NFC East.
No. We'll do the NFC South tomorrow. We'll do the NFC South and AFC South. We'll end with the NFC East and AFC East.
Because Chase is gonna go super.
I want the homer.
Fanboy?
I want the homer for last.
Hey, I didn't go homer with the Niners.
I told you we needed to do the NFC West and AFC East on the same day, and you fucked up. But that's fine.
I didn't. You said we should do this. But anyways, we'll leave.
All right, that's
Bye.
fine.